Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to bring to you presidential candidate. That's it. Presidential candidate, anti-crime candidate, Cenk Uygur. He's in the building. First ever naturalized U.S. citizen running for office. It's the Thanksgiving treat at this point. It's you have turkey, you watch football, maybe you toss the pigskin around yourself, and I and my uncle get together and have a Cenk-off. That's right, a real uncle-nephew standoff. That's right. Not true. Ted Cruz ran in 2016. Doesn't matter. Those were all technically still considered natural-born U.S. citizens, apparently. I did not know this. He does. Actually, yeah, let's get started with that. I told you George Romney was born in Mexico, and therefore he was not eligible in the same way that you weren't, but you said, no, that's actually not the case. George Romney has had like another like legal way of getting in, and the only person was, what, Barry Goldwater?
Yeah. So everybody has an excuse. John McCain was born in Panama. It was born in Panama, but he was born on a military base. Ted Cruz claims that his mom was an American citizen, which actually—
What do you mean claims? Is not the case?
No, because she was voting Canadian elections at the time. So that's actually on the record. So Ted Cruz should have never been allowed to
what the fuck?
run. Ted Cruz is not even a citizen. He never got naturalized.
Bro, you're coming in hot right now, though.
Yeah. So since he never got naturalized, he's actually not even a citizen. He shouldn't even be a senator, let alone
That's crazy.
running for president. But he claimed that his mom was a citizen at the time he was born, which would give him the excuse. George Romney's the same way. Barry Goldwater was born in the Arizona Territory and was not a natural-born citizen. And so I don't know what excuse they're using for him, but it's not in the Constitution. So, like, people cheat all the time. So they're like, oh, yeah, Republican white guy, totally allowed to run, right? But it doesn't matter because the whole thing got amended out of the Constitution.
I gotta try and fix the microphones. Hold on. No, this is bad. Hold on. I'm trying to max out your mic, but I'm having a hard time. I've already maxed out.
I usually max out my mic.
No, I know, but it's not working right now for some reason. I don't know what it is. Speak into it again?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
People were saying that you were not loud enough.
Yeah.
You have no noise gate either, so I don't know why.
Yeah. It is very unusual for me to not be loud enough.
Yeah. I lowered my own volume a little bit so we can match yours, and then hopefully chat will shut their stupid mouths. I'm not going to curse because the kids are right in the vicinity. All right.
Okay, so bottom line is, guys, 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized have due process and equal protection.
Okay.
So it already got amended out of the Constitution. So anyone out there who's like, oh, did you read the Constitution, man? Yeah, I read it. No. Oh, you know what? I hadn't read it until a troll on Twitter told me. And there it is. Oh, wow, I should have checked, right? No, did you read the part? Do you understand what it means to amend something, amend the Constitution? And it says very clearly, born or naturalized, equal protection. It's super clear.
But have you considered the fact that I'm racist?
Another one I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there is actually a movement online called Don't Care, Still Voting for Cenk. That's right. I don't know if you were aware of this or not.
I actually am not.
How do you get rid of Hamas
if
you don't do it the way Israel is currently doing it, albeit with...
You do what America did with the Osama bin Laden. We didn't go drop a nuke on Pakistan. We didn't go destroy 6,000 residential buildings in the middle of Pakistan. We sent in special forces. Is it more dangerous to the special forces? Of course. That's the point of special forces. Try to find the hostages. Does it look like Israel's trying to find the hostages? If I have a family member that's a hostage, I'm disgusted by what Netanyahu's doing now. How do you know they're not in the buildings you're dropping bombs on? How do you know they're not in the tunnels you're dropping bombs on? How do you know they're not in the hospitals you're dropping bombs on? So if you want the hostages rescued, every rational human being can agree this is not the way to do it. This is the way to do death and destruction for the sake of death and destruction. It's collective punishment. It's genocide against Palestinians. and the world has to speak out. So my way is not pleasant either. It involves a lot of folks dying on both sides. I understand that. Those are super hard choices. But go find Hamas. Go find the hostages. Go rescue them instead of wantonly, indiscriminately killing after killing. And let's be honest, when you drop a bomb and a kid's head explodes and a grandmother is incinerated, that is terrorism.
Yeah, don't care. Still voting for Cenk. That video that we just watched.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck happened? That video we watched has 370,000 likes on TikTok.
Yeah, that segment got over 4 million views on YouTube.
Yeah, you killed it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you and I have, I guess, some disagreements on that. I think like the best way to negotiate or the best way to deal with the situation is to negotiate and do the exact opposite. That was my perspective after 9/11 as well. People have often asked me, what should have America done? And I'm like, literally the opposite of what they did, which I think you would agree with as well. Do you think America should have invaded Afghanistan after 9/11?
Well, that's a complicated one. Iraq, obviously not. So for Afghanistan, it depends on what version of the story you believe. Did they actually offer up bin Laden or didn't they? If they offered up bin Laden, then it's a no-brainer. You take bin Laden, you don't invade Afghanistan for no reason.
Well, they offered up bin Laden before, as a matter of fact, before 9/11, 9/10 specifically, was when, what's the guy? The guy that got assassinated, he was...
Rashid Dostum?
No.
Gulbuddin Hekmatyar?
No. Not none of those guys. And also, Dostum is still alive, isn't he? What the fuck?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Dostum is
I don't
like...
know, you accidentally killed Dostum.
Yeah. Ahmed Shah Massoud was the leader of the Northern Allegiance, right? And he famously, before his assassination, as an Afghan politician and military commander, he was one of the Mujahideen that was obviously another rugged anti-Soviet fighter, but obviously the Mujahideen were a collection of different forces that were not aligned with one another ideologically. There was like different sects, different opinions. He was following the rise of the Taliban in 1996. Massoud was a rejectioner of the Taliban's fundamentalist interpretation of Islam, and he was a leader of the Northern Alliance. And he told America that he wanted to give up Osama bin Laden, and then he was executed because the CIA leaked his location in still disputed claims on whether or not it was deliberately done. Who knows? But the CIA leaked his location, and then he was assassinated by Al Qaeda. That found his information and portrayed themselves as journalists, actually, in a TV interview, and then they blew him up. Yeah, that was great.
So the other time that we had bin Laden, where we could have at least withdrawn at that point, is that we had him cornered in Tora Bora shortly after we went in. And there's a New York Times article about how Rumsfeld said, no, do not pursue him.
Yeah, isn't that where we don't negotiate with terrorists come from as well?
No, not from that one, because there was no negotiation. We had him cornered, and the American general asked permission to pursue, and Rumsfeld said, no, do not pursue. And so we just let
I was talking
bin
about
Laden
this.
go.
I was talking about this. On October 14th, Sunday, October 14th, 2001, an article older than half of chat in The Guardian writes, Bush rejects Taliban offer to hand bin Laden over. The reason why they said they were denying this offer was because the Taliban said, we will give you Osama bin Laden as long as you take it to the International Criminal Court and as long as there's evidence as to his wrongdoing, which you could look at and interpret as like, oh, well, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. But
I could look at that and say that's perfect. What did we do with the Nazis? We brought them to Nuremberg. We didn't just summarily execute them. We did rule of law. And did we have evidence on bin Laden? Yeah, of course we had evidence on bin Laden. So that's 3 times we rejected an offer to get bin Laden because we wanted more war. And so I don't agree with that. But if there was no real offer, then we would have had to go and get bin Laden. But again, the good news is right after we went in, we had him. And Rumsfeld and Cheney turned it down.
Wonder why.
Yeah. So, by the way, the website's jankforamerica.com. And the thing is, for the movement that's saying, I don't care, I'm still voting for Cenk. First of all, I love you. Thank you. Appreciate you. But second of all, you don't have to worry about it. We're going to go to court, and the court's either going to say yes or no. So it shouldn't affect whether you're going to vote for me.
The judge is going to be like, don't care, voting for Cenk. That's what the judge is going to say.
Well, that's entirely possible. Or they could say, yeah, I care, and you're right. The 14th Amendment clearly amended it.
So anyway, this is the Bin Laden stuff that we were talking about, but like the parallel here is, of course, in my opinion, with October 7. I think that what you said on Piers is I mean, it's decent. It's definitely far better than like 99% of Democratic politicians at that moment, almost 99% of Democratic politicians. But yeah, no, I think that you and I are in agreement on this issue. I don't think we're going to fight a lot on this. We're not going to have a jank off on Israel-Palestine, it seems.
No, I mean, look, I don't like I think Hamas is counterproductive. I think they're Muslim fundamentalists. I got no interest in them. I don't know if you disagree with that. But obviously the Palestinians should be free. Obviously the occupation is an unbearable injustice. And obviously we shouldn't send a dime to Israel until they not only end this bombing campaign, but end the occupation. So I don't know why in the world we would support someone who's oppressing people for 56 straight years.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's a fairly reasonable take. The only difference, I guess, is that like, no, I mean, I agree with all of that. Yeah. It's not like, I've talked about this before. It's not like Hamas in and of itself is like a popular movement. It's more so, anyone who will retaliate against Israel's unjustifiable criminal occupation, its belligerent occupation. I think that is what the broad majority opinion of the Palestinians is, that like the understanding is the occupation has to be costly, because if it's not, then Israel thinks they can just continue getting away with what they're doing. And
I'll just say two things about that. One, when the Palestinians went to the UN to try to get a state declared, just like Israel did, when Israel said that was unacceptable and America backed that play, that's what led to this. Because if you say diplomacy is terrorism and terrorism is terrorism, well, then you're going to get actual terrorism, because you're not giving any political, diplomatic, peaceful solution a chance. It was absurd, and it was unconscionable for America to not support the Palestinians' resolution to get a state through the United Nations.
There was also the 27 Hamas heel turn, basically, where they did the same thing. They tried to do a PLO situation where they updated their charter, and then they said like they wanted to gain international recognition, but of course that was completely antithetical to what the Israeli governments were designing Hamas to be, a fundamentalist terror cell. They're bad. They're terrorists. Everyone in Palestine are terrorists. They voted for Hamas. I mean, this is something that...
So can I just say two things about that? First of all, I've now seen a bunch of Israeli officials, including Isaac Herzog, the president, say that. And what they're doing is they're agreeing with Hamas, and they're agreeing with Osama bin Laden. In bin Laden's letter to the U.S., he said the American civilians had it coming because they voted for the American administrations that they have, like the Bush one. And Hamas says the Israeli citizens had it coming because they voted for Netanyahu, etc. So when Isaac Herzog says, well, the Palestinians once voted for Hamas, 20 years ago, so their civilians had it coming, that is a very literal terrorist talking point. So
yeah, but
he's advocating for terrorism.
Okay, you don't understand. Have you considered that terrorism can only be done by what we perceive are enemy combatants? I wouldn't say brown guys in the situation, because Israel is very brown in the exact same way that like Palestine is, you know what I mean? But like in the eyes of the American, in the eyes of the Western world, we mostly only see Ashkenazi Jews. So we think like, oh, those are the white guys on the field.
Yeah, no, it's those, like, that's why all these labels are so stupid. Like the Israelis and the Palestinians are nearly indistinguishable. They're of course we're the same people. We're all indistinguishable. Our DNA is like 99.9% the same. It's just labels that we put on people: Israeli, Palestinian, Jewish, Muslim. It's silly. It's totally to kill each other over that is insanity. And then one last thing.
It's not a religious conflict necessarily. I think it's more so that is the justification used to harden further polarize and harden the battle lines, basically, like to be able to draw the battle lines accurately, or what the fuck? What is happening here? This is like in the way. Hold on, I'm trying to move this. Okay, there it is. To justify it, to sell the war.
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of factors. So the religious fundamentalism of the Israeli settlers is definitely relevant. Of Hamas is definitely relevant, and it helps to separate out them in a way that is unresolvable. In other words, it's disastrous because it separates them out in a way that's unresolvable. But ultimately, it's a power dynamic at play. And so and by the way, they say, oh, well, if Hamas had the power that Israel has, they'd kill every Jew. No, that's actually not at all true. It would play out almost exactly as it's playing out now, where the Palestinians would oppress the Israelis and occupy them.
But they
wouldn't kill all of them. That's ridiculous.
But you don't even know that because, we have no way of knowing that because Hamas and any kind of political mobilization that it's been able to create for itself, any kind of like popularity that it's been able to cultivate for itself, and it's been deeply unpopular throughout its inception and well into the 2000s, and even now is not a very popular entity, is due to the occupation, is due to the fact that time and time again these negotiations that were being done with Yasser Arafat led to more settlements, more expansion in the West Bank, more oppression, the permit tyranny that Palestinians were subjected to. So I don't even think that Hamas, in the way that we understand it, or the way that it exists, would exist if they had that same level of power.
No, 100%. Except for the fact that whichever government has unlimited power will almost always abuse it, right? And that's what's happening in Israel. But overall, of course, Hamas wouldn't exist if there was no occupation.
Yeah.
And
they would vanish. It would,
yeah. So look, one other defense that Israeli supporters use is, well, all these guys are anti-Semitic, so they no matter what we do, they try to kill us. That's nonsense, total utter nonsense.
Yeah.
So first of all, there's global anti-Semitism. That is definitely true, right? But is that related to why the Palestinians in particular are aggrieved with Israel?
Yeah.
No, it's because you're occupying them. That's not complicated. Pretending it's because they're hateful. Okay, when were they supposed to love you? At what point in the occupation where the Palestinians go, hey, you know what? Even though these guys have been occupying us and taking away all of our dignity, our economic opportunity, dropping bombs on us, cutting off the water and power anytime they want, and bringing in settlers to steal our land and having them execute us every once in a while summarily, we're supposed, oh, right, but we love them.
I think I would go so far as to say that I think Palestinians do show a tremendous amount of resilience and also are infinitely less hateful towards Jewish people or even Israelis in general, but like Jewish people across the board than one would expect under any other normal circumstance. Something that Norm Finkelstein talks about a lot is like the hatred that his parents, his mom and dad, both Holocaust survivors, both concentration camp survivors, they were in the Warsaw Ghetto, the hatred that they experience, the hatred that they feel towards Germans carried on to like their experiences living in America. And he always talks about like how understandable of a hatred that was, considering like what the Germans had done, what the Nazis had done. And that distinction is almost impossible to make, even after years and years of like surviving that oppression. As far as I've seen, Palestinians are infinitely less hateful. Maybe it's because they understand their position is like born into oppression, and they are very cognizant, or maybe it's because they are hyper educated in spite of all of the circumstances that they've had to deal with. But you know, most Palestinians that I hear from are way less hateful than they normally anyone else would under normal circumstances.
Yeah, last thing I'll say on that is, look, they set up this oppression loop that is unbreakable. So they say, since they hate us, we have to occupy and oppress them. And the more they occupy and oppress them, the more they are hated, of course, as would happen in any situation, right? So then they say, well, now you hate us more, now we have to occupy you more. Oh, yeah. Well, now you hate us more, now we have to occupy you more. So it's an infinite loop that cannot be broken. And the reason for that is that it's not that Netanyahu and the Israeli right-wing government couldn't figure that out logically. It's that they want to occupy.
Yeah.
They want to take more land.
Exactly. I mean, I think this is one of the most prescient Netanyahu takes of all time. This is like, it was on TRT, TRT, the Turkish broadcaster, Let me see if I can find it. But do you guys know the video I'm talking about? It's like the old one from like 2001. Oh, here it is. A leaked video from 2001. It's not even a leaked video, but
Oh yeah, yeah.
this
I saw
so
yeah.
perfectly summarizes like exactly what his position is and exactly how he deals with like American leaders in general. A leaked video of 2001 shows Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu talking about how Israel intentionally strikes Palestinians painfully, how he deceived the U.S. to break the Oslo Accords, and how Americans will always support Israel if it faces backlash.
לתת להם מכות, לא רק מכות כל כך מכילות, שהמחיר יהיה כבד מנשוא. כרגע המחיר לא כבד מנשוא. זו התקפה רבת היקף על הרשות הפלסטינית. להביא אותם לפחד שהכל מתמוטט. לא פוחדים, צוחקים להם, יראו לנו לתוך הישב וצחוק
The world will say that we're the aggressors. Hold on. Because they can say whatever they want. Aren't you afraid of what they'll say, Bibi? Especially today with the U.S.? I know how they are. America is something that you can easily maneuver and move in the right direction. And even if they say something, so then they say something. So what? 80% of Americans support us. By the way, this is the same Benjamin Netanyahu who sidestepped Barack Obama, regularly undermined him, went to the Republican Congress and delivered a speech while Obama was president. And he's right. You know what Obama did on his fucking way out? By the way, Obama, least popular politician in Israel, widely condemned by Zionists as like a Jew hater directly. That's like what what ultra Zionists have said about Barack Obama. What did Obama do on his way out after being undermined and shit all over by Benjamin Netanyahu? Oh, he gave him $38 billion over the course of the next 10 years. So, he's right. Netanyahu is right. What happened with the Oslo Accords? The Accords which were ratified by Parliament. I was asked before the 1996 elections, will you fulfill them? Yeah. I said yes, subject to reciprocity and minimizing pullouts. I gave my own interpretation of the agreements in such a way that will allow me to stop the race back towards the 1967 borders. How do we manage to do this? Nobody defined what military facilities are, so they kept on taking more land under the auspices of military use. So I defined them as being security zones. He's saying the entire Jordan Valley for me is a military facility. Nobody has. Yes, like the Beit Shean Valley. You see, go figure. It's so funny that this is like presented as like leaked video, but the hilarity of it is that there's nothing leaked about this. This is all well documented. Half of the shit that he's saying here is half of the shit he ran on time and time again. And also the other half is like very well documented by Israeli human rights organizations like B'Tselem. So none of this is like a big secret.
What the hell? Yeah. Look, no one, it doesn't matter. At this point, all that there is on the Israeli side is the Israeli right wing. The Israeli left wing doesn't even support them.
The Israeli left wing is...
Yeah, well, it's okay. And then the U.S. government, right? Both 95% of Republicans and Democrats. But not the U.S. people anymore. They've lost us. So now, he's saying it's so easy to maneuver the Americans. By the way, American citizens, why don't you do an uprising against your own government, right? Look at them. He says, these are all my bitches. I can move them around any way I like. Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. They kneel at my feet. That's a foreign government's leader saying that. Are you going to sit there and take it? Are you going to keep electing people like Biden and yes, Trump, who are their bitches and who do everything that Netanyahu tells them to do? Like a dog, Trump heals to this guy. Biden, of course, heals to this guy. He's been healing to him for 50 straight years.
President Cenk.
Yeah, JankForAmerica.com. I'm actually for America, not like these guys who sell us out to foreign countries nonstop. Has Trump stopped taking Saudi money yet? Is Biden off his knees yet for Saudi Arabia? Again, Saudi Arabia bitch slaps Biden and raises gas prices right before the midterms, insults him to his face. And what does Biden do? Nothing. He just kneels again. So I'm tired of these so-called Democratic leaders who kneel to everybody, kneel to all their corporate donors, kneel to our foreign governments. Doesn't matter if it's Israel, Saudi Arabia. They never do what we want. 68% of Americans want a ceasefire. but only like 10% of Congress does. Because they don't represent us. They just represent their donors. Anyone telling you otherwise
I know what you're
is
talking
a
about,
total
Richie.
goddamn liar. And everybody knows it except the corrupt in Washington.
Richie Torres is my congressman, my
Richie
favorite.
Torres, what a sellout. I mean, what a pathetic groveling sellout.
He's. I don't
Dude,
know what
we
you're talking
get
about.
it. You get money from that lobby. We get it. Okay? We all know it. You've groveled enough. Pick yourself up off the ground. It's humiliating. It's embarrassing. Richie Torres, Jesus Christ, man. Have some dignity. Their boots are clean already, Richie. Get up off the ground. And when you talk about lobbies, I talk about defense contractors, oil companies. They also benefit from conflicts in the Middle East. But if you don't think that AIPAC's a lobby that affects the Democratic and Republican parties, you're on crack.
No,
I've one never, doesn't think that.
I have never seen someone so openly and flagrantly defend a group that they're so directly getting financial support from. Like, this would be akin to a politician literally being like, if you consider Raytheon to be like an evil company, then I think you should be arrested.
You're a terrorist if you don't support
you're a terrorist
Raytheon
if you don't support
wasting
Raytheon.
more of our money.
Like,
right?
most senators and most congresspersons at least like have the dignity of like shutting the fuck up when they know they should. Richie Torres is like so horny that he literally shat on the president of J Street. Did you see this? Like, J Street is also a Zionist institution. It's just supposed to be a liberal Zionist institution that's like, you know, anti-settlements and things of that nature. And like, they're supposed to be a counterbalance to AIPAC.
I like J Street.
Yeah. I don't, you know, I have friends that have worked at J Street that, you know, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, my point is J Street's perspective, well, early on after October 7th was also insane, which a lot of the people that used to work with J Street and still work within J Street were like, dial it back. What the fuck are you guys doing? Remember when they did the no ceasefire bill?
So I don't. But look, here's the thing about J Street.
Anyway,
the bottom line is they're certainly not anybody's radical, right?
They're not.
Like,
in
they're
comparison to
left-wing
AIPAC, of course they're not. So yeah, they're liberal Zionists in general. But here's the point I'm trying to make. Richie Torres yelled at the president of J Street after Jamal Bowman talked about a J Street-backed West Bank trip that that American congressmen and women took, okay, where he said he was not allowed into certain parts of the West Bank because he wasn't Jewish. And Richie Torres was like, that's a lie. And then he conflated that with an actual anti-Semitic conspiracy, the Jewish space lasers conspiracy, and said West Bank checkpoints are a lie akin to the Jewish space lasers, like Jewish checkpoints in the West Bank, which is fucking psychotic. Like, it's like the most insane thing you can say. You're undermining the severity of anti-Semitism by conflating it with things that are demonstrably correct that people have seen and documented. Israeli human rights groups have documented this for years and years. It's so fucking stupid.
Haas, I actually saw that in one of your tweets,
yeah,
and I couldn't believe he said that. So there's real anti-Semitism in the world and in the country right now. I mean, 2 synagogues got shot up.
Yeah.
Right-wingers are, now, they're supporting Nick Fuentes. Donald Trump had dinner with Fuentes, Kanye West. They're openly talking about
Elon Musk is talking about fucking Jewish great replacement conspiracies.
Yeah, that's totally nuts, right? Like, in the moment of this, like, heightened anti-Semitism, for them to use it for political reasons is disgusting. It's the boy who cried wolf at the worst possible time. To say that Jewish space lasers, which is obviously anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, is the equivalent of saying that there's checkpoints in the West Bank. What are you talking about? Of course there's checkpoints in the West Bank. Netanyahu would agree that there's checkpoints in the West Bank.
Yeah.
That's a mental thing to say. That's saying, hey, listen, I will do any lie. I will do any piece of propaganda. Please send checks to richiedoras.com or wherever the hell your website is. Dude, we see you, brother. We see you. The whole world sees how pathetic you are, Richie Torres.
Yeah,
You're like a groveling, pathetic, miserable person. Just go into some other job. Become a plumber. Become a dentist. Do something useful with your life instead of being a floor mat, the dirty mop that you use, like the dirtiest mop you have, for any lobbyist that comes by. It
well, he
doesn't
deleted
just have
it.
to be AIPAC.
To be fair, he deleted it. Except he blocked me and he's been like going off on a fucking tangent still He's a ridiculous person, debasing himself in this way. Also, once again, another person is John Fetterman as well, which is so fucking disappointing.
You want me to tell you the backstory of that? Because I was.
All right, give us the deets.
Yeah. So when Fetterman was running, he's running as a populist progressive. We're all super excited. This is pre-stroke, right? And so I'm just keeping it real, right? And at that point, he's like the next coming. Like, I think he's going to run for president. He's got the best chance of winning. He could knock Biden out. I'm super jazzed about Fetterman, right? And he gets it that you shouldn't do the robotic plastic crap that other politicians do.
Yeah.
Then he's a lieutenant governor, so he's never spoken out about Israel. So everybody's curious, how's he going to handle it? Because right at that point, Democratic majority for Israel, AIPAC, et cetera, are dumping millions of dollars into races. They've already spent $4 million against Nina Turner. So everybody knows that. So the progressive community is waiting to see what he's going to say. Is he going to A, stand up to them, B, punt, or C, kiss their ass? And he comes out with an aggressively ass-kissing message. And so at that point, I no hate. Okay, I got it. You're trying to win the election. You don't want $4 million spent against you. But once you win the election, then you're an incumbent. You have a ton of money. You have a ton of money.
Do you see what I'm showing you, though?
Power and leverage, okay?
Do you see what I'm showing you? Democratic majority for Israel PAC endorses Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman for Senate.
Of course. You kiss their ass, they endorse you. That's how it works. But then he gets into Senate, and it turns out he's like Richie Torres Jr. And he's, that's a heavy insult. I'll take it back, right? But it's like...
No, I think that's
close,
valid.
brother.
No, it's valid. He has more to offer than Richie Torres, for sure. But I think that it's an incredibly valid comparison to make because he quite literally, I don't know why, is seemingly dropped everything else and like either talks about being depressed, wearing fucking his dumbass outfits, or Israel and defending Israel unconditionally. He had a fucking Israeli flag that he was waving at the Palestinian protesters outside of a demonstration. Yeah. He went to the fucking psychotic "Let's Kill More Babies" march that they did, where John Hagee, famous anti-Semitic, psychopathic, far-right evangelical televangelist, was speaking about how Israel has a right to Judea and Samaria because it's like Armageddon is going to happen.
If you say, by the way, that Israel has a right to Judea and Samaria, it's the same thing as saying river to the sea. It's pro-genocide.
It's way past river to the sea because river to the sea in its inception and consistently has been an emancipatory slogan that does not mean killing Jews. Like I don't know if you're a anti-river to the sea guy. I'm not.
I don't want to it's not a useful thing. So
I've defended it unconditionally and continue to defend it.
I understand that it could be interpreted in different ways, and I've said that. Having said that, it's not a helpful or productive thing to say. But if you say that Israel should have Judea and Samaria, one, you're a religious fundamentalist nut job. You're a lunatic who should be locked up in an asylum. Number two, you're basically saying you're pro-genocide and have no respect for the Palestinian people. You're against all international law. You're for war crimes.
Here's why I don't think it's an equivalence either, by the way, because it is in the part of the Likud charter as well. The equivalence does not exist there because, like, from the river to the sea, Palestinians are under occupation. And the occupying force saying that is, of course, going to be a little bit different. It's the same dynamic between Black Power, which is an emancipatory slogan, an emancipatory group, versus White Power, which came after Black Power in an effort to do white identitarian politics, which was inherently genocidal and fascist.
There's no need for it. That's all. We're 100% right on this issue.
Yeah,
that's all.
So anyway, I just the reason why I defend it unconditionally is because, well, one, I care about the etymology, I care about the history of the statement, but also because people get fucking fired over it, and I think that's ridiculous. Susan Sarandon just got dropped by UTA, very cowardly. Fucking the head of CAA's like motion pictures division is, as far as I understand, like one of the only like Libyan women of color in a position of power in fucking Hollywood. And she was slated to be dropped entirely from CAA. And then Tom Cruise stepped up and was like, no, you can't do that. This is my agent. I want her to stay. And a bunch of like the powerful clients of CAA had to stand for her so that she didn't lose her job entirely. It is so fucking scummy, so nasty, so fucked up that this is what's happening. You have Melissa Barrera, who was dropped from Scream 7 for literally, it's like comical, for putting forth on her social media profile, on her Instagram story, a Jewish Currents magazine article from Holocaust and genocide historian scholar Ross Segal's article on Jewish Currents magazine on how Israel is a textbook case for genocide. This man is a genocide scholar. He's Israeli, he's Jewish, he's writing for Jewish Currents magazine, and posting that article in the eyes of Spyglass Studios or whatever the fuck was too far. It was a bridge too far.
Yeah. So number one, let's call it what it is: cancel culture. So now
it's McCarthyism. It's the only real type of cancel culture that has been so systematized in the United States of America. Historically speaking, cancel culture there has never been like a anti-Nazi cancel culture in America. Nazis have been historically defended under the auspices of free speech. The only time where we have historically allowed Congress and allowed politicians and allowed organizations to undermine political action that is supposed to be protected under the First Amendment is McCarthyism, Red Scare.
Yeah, and Barry Weiss started cancel culture by going around targeting Palestinian professors.
Oh, yeah.
Saying, how dare you treat Palestinians as human beings? You should be fired, right?
Yeah.
And then she pretended to be aggrieved by cancel culture. No, bitch, you started it. Let's be honest about it. Let's call it what it is, okay? And so this is like the height of cancel culture. How dare you disagree with Israel? You're fired. And it's not, and none of them, by the way, said from river to the sea at all. They said war crimes and genocide. Those are the trigger words, apparently. But those are just facts. Srebrenica, 6,000 Muslims killed. That was called a genocide because they targeted them for being Muslim, right? And so it doesn't. It's not Holocaust. It's not the same thing. You're just targeting based on ethnicity and killing a certain number of people and mass relocation. There's no question. It's definitional. But it's such a. There's one hero in that CIA agent story. But it's such a
Tom
bad,
Cruise?
Well, along with Tom Cruise, because you already said Tom. But it's such a bad precedent to set and such a bad look. Like, if you're Steven Spielberg, who apparently, if you believe the reporting, I don't know that it's, I wasn't there, but, or any of these other guys who pressured CAA to fire her, that's such a bad look, guys.
Wait, Steven
At a time of
Spielberg
anti-Semitism, you don't go around going, she dared to speak out against Israel. Fire her.
No, Spielberg. Right? Wait, I don't. It says Andrew.
Yeah, I read it in one of the articles. I'm not putting it on Spielberg. Like, there was a whole bunch of people internally at CAA and externally, their clients, and he was mentioned in one of the articles. He's not the pivotal guy. It's not, his name's not important. The point is, a whole bunch of people said, let's fire her because she's dared to say a political statement we don't agree with.
Yeah.
Even though it's technically and factually true, right? The other hero, other than Tom Cruise, was J.J. Abrams. So he apparently stepped up behind the scenes, was like, what are you guys doing? No, don't fire her. And so,
You know what's really
great
interesting?
job. Thank you, J.J. Abrams.
You know who actually, I don't know where they stand now, but you know who actually has been incredibly critical of the Benjamin Netanyahu administration? And it's someone you would not expect. It's someone whose brother you've called a donkey and is the reason why you were you may or may not have left WME, as a matter of fact. But Ari Emanuel. Yeah, Ari Emanuel has been because I looked into it to see I wonder what his perspective is, because obviously Ram is fucking reactionary piece of shit, right?
Well,
so
those
thought
are two different things, though. So, and Ram served in the IDF too. So, Ari Emanuel supports Israel 200%, and I'm sure there's a million things we disagree on. But that's the great thing about Jewish culture, is that it not only allows for dissent, but it advocates dissent. It wants to have these. You're supposed to challenge the rabbi, etc. So there's tons and tons of both Israelis and Jewish Americans who can't stand Netanyahu and who want to get rid of Netanyahu.
Yeah.
So, and Ari Emanuel's in that camp, and bless his heart for that. And he's like, how much more do we have to deal with this shit? Right? He's totally incompetent, totally self-obsessed, totally corrupt. Let's get rid of this son of a bitch.
yeah. It was Maha Dakil is who we're talking about, by the way, who worked with big name celebrities, including Tom Cruise, Reese Witherspoon, Natalie Portman, Ava DuVernay, and Hathaway stepped down from the internal board of the Creative Artists Agency following backlash for her incendiary posts. What were the incendiary posts, I wonder? Usually it's like, look, it's not a secret. I've been saying this since October 7th. You have to be very careful when you criticize Israel. It's just the truth. You have to be. For two reasons. One, because you do not want to say anything that can be misconstrued as anti-Semitic, because anti-Semitism is bigoted, is hateful, it's unacceptable. The other reason is because there are certainly going to be people that want to misconstrue your message to say, oh yeah, look at it, he's being anti-Semitic. And when that happens, when your words are cynically misconstrued, if you are especially approaching a criticism of Israel from a callous perspective, because you know that, let's say, morality is on your side, and you say something as callous as, like, maybe not even as callous, but like marginally, 10% as callous as like Amy Schumer, for example, who's been like baying and cackling like a fucking hyena about how all Palestinians are fucking rapists and deserve death and destruction. Or Sarah Silverman, who literally said, justified that we must cut the electricity and food and water to the Gaza Strip only to be rewarded with a Daily Show a broadcasting opportunity. Or Brett Gelman. All of these guys who were just like saying disgusting, freakish things about Palestinians and how they have to be ethnically cleansed, they will never get punished. You, on the other hand, if you say something that can even be remotely misconstrued, will absolutely get punished. Sometimes by onlookers who don't realize what you're trying to say, and in other instances by the likes of ADL, which, in my opinion, have openly shown that they do not care about real anti-Semitism. They simply care about anti-Zionism. I think that Jonathan Greenblatt's actions demonstrate this reality. The actions that have been criticized by a lot of liberal Zionists as well.
I didn't know that Sarah Silverman said that. That's disappointing. I really like her. I'm hoping that she realizes it was a mistake. I'll look it up later. And
she said that she was high.
Okay, well,
she got high when she
that's
said.
Okay, at least she's like saying my bad. So for Jonathan Greenblatt, look, he did great work during the Trump Muslim ban and all that stuff, and so he's a mixed bag. He's done
who
good,
Greenblatt,
yeah, in sticking up for Muslims, Americans, and other people. But whenever it comes to Israel, he thinks that it's his job to defend Israel, and it isn't. You're misconstruing your job, brother. That's AIPAC and Democratic Majority for Israel, etc. You're supposed to be standing up for Jewish Americans, and so the way he throws around the word anti-Semitism in regards to defending any Israeli policies deeply counterproductive.
No, they fully went back to like 1990, early 90s ADL, collaborating with fucking apartheid South African agents and shit, and spying on the Jewish left. It's basically back to that level of ADL this time around.
Yeah, and you're ruining credibility of the organization.
No, it's gone. It is fucking lit on fire. And I think Jonathan Greenblatt openly recognized it. Even the former president of ADL literally tweeted out, Jonathan Greenblatt is a piece of shit, basically. Like, I mean, he didn't say those words.
Because of what he's doing to defend Elon Musk.
Yes.
Too. And so that's like, you know what? I mean, I don't even want to bring him up, but it's a perfect analogy. Rabbi Shmuley, right? So he goes and attacks me in an insane lunatic way on Piers Morgan, calls me every name in the book, but then it turns out he was the guy defending Bobby Kennedy for saying that coronavirus is genetically designed to avoid Ashkenazi Jews, and he defended Michael Jackson when he wrote "Beat Me, Jew Me" in a song. So he's like a little paid bitch to defend anti-Semites.
There's one more. Oh, wait, hold on. Well, not anti-Semites in this case, but he's also defended my favorite defender of Israel / defender of the constitutional reasons as to why we should look into lowering the age of consent laws, the Dersh. Did you know that?
Uh-huh.
He defended Alan Dershowitz when Virginia Jeffrey came out and said Alan Dershowitz, sexually assaulted me. Friend to Jeffrey Epstein, Alan Dershowitz, he defended
Of course he did, right? Because he doesn't have what does he have a congregation somewhere? Rabbi, right? He's like he has this non-profit where most of the money goes to him and his wife and their house, I think. So you can look it up. You can see the exact details, right? You don't take my word for it. My opinion is that Rabbi Shmuley is a corrupt defender of anti-Semites and does it for money and is one of the worst pieces of shit there is in media. But you can look it up. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Anyway, so this decision from the CIA was made after Duck Hill reposted an Instagram story on Wednesday, which read in part, "You're currently learning who supports genocide." She added her own message over the repost stating, "That's the line for me." That's it. What's more heartbreaking than witnessing genocide? Witnessing the denial that the genocide is happening. That's why the fucking CIA guys were like, "That's a bridge too far, actually, madam."
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait to make sick-ass fucking movies 10 years down the line about how, there were brave defenders of the Palestinians or whatever the fuck. Like, think about it this way. What are, like, some of the top movies right now? Martin Scorsese's historical rendition of Killers of the Flower Moon. Killers of the Flower Moon. Like, what are we doing? What the fuck are we doing here? Like, you guys don't realize you can't draw a fucking parallel to what's happening? I guess they just like want those in Hollywood just like don't really give a shit about ethnic cleansing happening because it turns out it makes really good movies. Oppenheimer is another one. Exactly.
And by the way, look, let's be honest, okay? They're doing the same exact thing that Turks do. Okay.
Oh, with the Armenian genocide.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
They're like, oh, well, no, it's not a genocide. I mean, yeah, we marched them, and yeah, we moved 1 million people, and we did ethnic cleansing, and we did the war crimes, and we dropped bombs onto buildings. We know Hamas is in the tunnels, and the tunnels are completely unaffected, and we killed 11,000, 12,000 civilians, over 5,000 children. But no, you can't call it a genocide. No, it's like literally the definition of a genocide.
Yeah.
And same thing that happened with the Ottoman Empire, right? Yeah, mass relocations, massacres, that's targeting a specific group.
Yeah, people...
Clearly, that is the definition of a genocide.
People think, I think incorrectly, that there's like a number that you have to hit for it to be a genocide. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
There would be no reason to study genocides and to have any kind of designation for what is a genocide if the only designation is appropriate after the fact. That doesn't mean anything. Then why the fuck are we learning about anything at all?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Why would you ever learn about how this stuff works if it was only allowed to be spoken on after the fact? Like the top of the hour ad break that I'm going to run right now that I forgot to run. Okay, and I'm going to go pee. You can talk to the chat while I do that.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. It's not the destination. It's the it's the journey that makes it a genocide. Okay.
Okay, so whenever he does this, I plug my stuff. So, JankForAmerica.com, running for president. By the way, I bought BidenIsGoingToLose.com. I bought SelfishJoeBiden.com because my name's hard to spell, right? Although you guys all know it. But so I bought all those other things so that you could be clear. And Biden is going to lose. Hopefully, we'll talk about that next. And look, I appreciate all you guys out there. Speaking of Thanksgiving, I've got over 6,600 donors, man. That the faith they've shown in me is unbelievable. If you guys want to, at a minimum, as a protest against Biden being foisted upon us when he's 81 years old, obviously going to lose, massively down on the polls, total egomaniac, doesn't even want to run, can't finish the sentence. Even if it's like $1 in a protest, go to JankForAmerica.com or BidensGonnaLose.com and chip in, man. By the way, for the fight against this discrimination against naturalized citizens. It's absurd. What is the Habsburg dynasty going to take us over? No, it's the 14th Amendment already said naturalized citizens have equal protection. They didn't say, oh, but you should read our mind. We didn't really mean equal. So we're going to test that in the courts. And for 25 million naturalized citizens, we're sick of it. We're sick of, you're not really one of us. You're not really 100% citizen. You're a second-class citizen. And look, when right-wing does it, when the trolls do it, I no problem, man. That shit just slides right off my back. I've been through it 2,000 times, right? But it does. But left-wingers should never do that. They shouldn't be like, oh yeah, I like the original discriminatory Constitution, man. Can't you read? It says blacks are 3/5 of a person. Yeah, that got amended out too, brother. Okay? And so equal protection and due process means we protect every American as they are 100% Americans. So if you're in favor of that, cenkforamerica.com, help out on that too.
God damn, dude.
Yes.
You haven't stopped. You have not stopped promoting. Holy shit.
That's how I do. You give me the mic, I'll do it.
I was sneaking in a little bit of macaroni and cheese.
I don't blame you.
Mule here. Tell Cenk he's got my 500 votes. Dude, I've activated my mules.
Awesome. Excellent.
Hell yeah. Watch out with your phone. Don't show it on screen.
Yeah. So I need all the Krakens and all the mules out there. Okay.
No, mules like illegal.
Yeah,
like
I know.
We're the 5,000. Okay, I hope you know that. All right. The most important election of our lifetimes. We need a new candidate.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Damn, man. We put that website together in a minute. We're going to get a new website. That's obviously super cheesy.
Okay. Policy. Time off for parents. Paid family leave. Higher wages. $15 minimum wage. 65% of American support. Affordable health insurance. Public options. 68% of American support. Fight corruption. End gerrymandering. 90% of American support. Allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. 83% of American support. Where's Joe Biden? Too busy trying to stay alive so he can cross the fucking finish line.
Yeah.
Fucked up.
So, look, the reason I put the percentages in there is because it's so obvious that all of our policies are super popular, and yet they never get done. And because of the bullshit of the politicians.
You know what's ironic about what you just wrote here? Pretty sure Biden ran on all of these.
Yeah. So, and by the way, that's another reason why I put it. He did nothing to end gerrymandering. He didn't even introduce the public option. He purposely threw the $15 minimum wage under the bus himself. Paid family leaves at 84%. Never proposed it after it got taken out of the Build Back Better. Why didn't you just do it as a standalone bill? And to be fair to him, though, he did negotiate drug price. He did it on one drug, left like
Insulin.
10,000 other drugs, totally unregulated. So my point is, Joe Biden's a liar. He never intended to do any of these things. They're incredibly popular. He could do them at any time that he wants to. Propose paid family leave in the Senate. Embarrass the Republicans into, go ahead, vote against it. Vote against American moms. I dare you. I dare you. Why don't you do it? And then we'll pick up some more Senate seats. Why doesn't Joe Biden do the goddamn bare minimum? Because he's a liar. He doesn't want to do any of these things. These are all things that the donors are blocking. Not Republicans, not the filibuster, not the parliamentarian.
Why public option and not Medicare for all?
Medicare for All also is super popular, but I put public option in because it's, one, indisputably popular, including with Republicans, and number two, Joe Biden promised it and didn't even propose it. It's like the bare minimum, and he didn't even propose it.
Bullshit.
Like, if that wasn't a lie, what was it?
Get
like
his ass.
Like the mainstream media catches feelings when you call politicians liars when they're obvious liars, right?
I'm the labor secretary when he wins.
So I'm just telling you what's reality, what Americans know. He didn't try. He is Joe Manchin. He calls him JoJo. He gave him the pen for the Inflation Reduction Act. And Joe Manchin comes along every once in a while and pulls a Wyatt Earp on him, and Joe Biden plays the role of Billy Bob Thornton in Tombstone. And Manchin looks at him and goes, what, are you going to sit there and bleed all day after bitch slapping him 3 times? So what does Biden do? Oh, okay, yes, sir. Why? Because he is Joe Manchin. He never wanted to pass any of those things. Wouldn't it be amazing, guys, if there was actually someone who ran who wanted to pass the goddamn bills?
Can I just say something? I can't believe I'm going to defend Joe Biden here a little bit, but like, if Joe Biden was a more telegenic or more kinetic leader that wasn't 857 years old, I think right now in this time and age, and he didn't do the Israel stuff, obviously, and maybe found more like a better workaround and use the bully pulpit more effectively for student loans and other things that
he was a different person. But go ahead.
Well, my point is, no, you know what? Fuck it. Actually, even if he didn't do the other stuff, but he was just like younger and more energetic. Like if this was Joe Biden from like 2012, right? I think he would be unimaginably popular. Because here's what I think. I think that the economy was awful, and obviously there was negative real wage growth for a very long time that people are not going to forget about, right? But it's not simply just inflation. There's a lot that happened under the Biden administration that I would factor as decent, to good even. The NLRB decisions, like allowing the agencies to operate. Then there was a lot of bad. Immigration policies were not great, really bad actually. The way he's dealt with immigration is not great at all. But ultimately, what I'll say is, I do believe that the economy will look at the economy in a very different way, unless something horrifying happens, or unless something like, there's more like foreign interference from OPEC Plus or whatever, and then Biden demonstrates his inability to rein in like the American oil and gas industry. But outside of that, I think that controlling inflation and like real wage growth, the experiencing real wage growth paired up with a lot of like decent momentum from the NLRB, if he was a younger person, could have been sold with a much better message. Like, he does, in a weird way, try to present himself as like the guy who's like ending neoliberalism.
Yeah.
Which is so weird. It's like, it's going to have a negative polarizing effect against that sort of thing, which is what I'm frustrated by, because it's like he's the worst guy to try to champion this fucking message.
So look, did he do some things that were right? Yeah. For example, he's not getting nearly enough credit for creating over 14 million jobs. So he more than doubled Trump. But that's the problem with Joe Biden. In polling, he's polling 19 points lower than Trump on jobs when he more than doubled him on jobs. So, well, look, if you can't make the case for yourself, you shouldn't run. Like, he's like, hey, I want to prevent everybody else from running, but I'm not going to make my own case. And I'm not going to make it against Trump. Every time he does a speech, he's like, oh, I want the Republican Party to be stronger. My Republican friends, I love doing deals with them.
Yeah, I hate that shit. I hate that shit so much.
And, well, okay, then go be a Republican. Okay, you're not, like, you're supposed to be the leader of the Democratic Party. So, look, he withdrew from Afghanistan. That's good. Yeah, people overhype how messy it was. It was always going to be messy to withdraw from any country. So it's not like Joe Biden hasn't done anything good. Some of the parts about climate change in those bills, some of the infrastructure in those bills were good.
Renewable energy initiatives, like obviously like subsidies, tax breaks for battery plants. Like you're bringing back a lot of jobs in the country,
right?
In a sector that has like so much growth potential. On that front, like he has done decent things, except
right. So, and you're right that it's much more than a normal Democrat does. Like,
yeah,
right. A normal Democrat gives you 5% and pats you on the head, right? And these days, Joe Biden, because of pressure from younger voters and how important younger voters are to the Democratic Party and to Joe Biden, and let alone the Bernie Sanders wing, et cetera, he gave us 15%. And so that's why we're like, oh my God, he's like so much more progressive than Obama. And then, but in reality, it's still 85% bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, negotiating drug prices, the perfect example. They negotiate one drug, and they cover up the fact that we're not negotiating drug prices for every other drug. And then they get their mainstream media to go, historic reform, he cut drug prices. Total propaganda. Purposeful propaganda, not just to help Joe Biden, but for Joe Biden to help the drug companies cover up their crimes. So they have a monopoly. It's corruption defined. They pay off the Republicans and the Democrats. And Joe Biden is not the guy who's holding them in check. He's the guy who's doing the cover story. He's the getaway driver for that. So it's not enough. No, you should have your leaders should represent you. I know we've lost that like idea completely in America in the last 50 years. Well,
that's why I'm so frustrated about like this iteration of like Joe Biden once again refusing to reckon with popular support for ideas like the ceasefire, right? And just in the most comical way saying no, like Israel has a right to kill more children. Like, I don't give a fuck. And I get very frustrated with that because, like, of course there's going to be Arab voters in places like Michigan, a reality that Gretchen Whitmer certainly understands, and that's why she's triangulated her messaging very differently than Joe Biden has so far. But there's going to be people that will not ever forget Joe Biden's actions and his statements, right? Muslim voters. And beyond that, I get very frustrated at liberals who yell at the likes of myself, who say, I think that it's perfectly valid and perfectly reasonable to say you're not going to vote for a president to extract concessions like 1 year out from an election. That's ridiculous. What the fuck are we doing here? Like, why are we always voting from a defensive posture forever as the country and the world, as a consequence of this country, ratchets towards further and further right-wing policies
Yeah.
that Republicans push the needle on, and then the Democrats solidify and make permanent. Great example I will give you is this. Under the Bush administration, tax cuts for the highest top tax bracket were pushed. However, this was an initiative that was slated to sunset, right? If you recall, the top marginal tax rate was slated to sunset, so the taxes were about to go back up. Under the Obama administration, Joe Biden personally sidestepped Harry Reid when Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell were negotiating on this, and it was supposed to be a non-starter. Like, yeah, these taxes are going to go up. What the fuck are you talking about? Joe Biden sidestepped Harry Reid to make those top tax cuts permanent. Republicans push the needle. Democrats solidify it. They calcify it. They make it permanent. Always. Very frustrating.
So that deal was so bad that Evan Bayh, a conservative Democrat, wrote a whole book shitting on that deal, saying, I can't believe how much Joe Biden sold us out. Joe Biden made those tax cuts permanent in a way that Dick Cheney and George Bush couldn't have dreamt about. This is exactly Joe Biden's job. His entire career is to give the Republicans everything they want and then say, no, it's okay, it's bipartisan. And then the media comes in and cheers, bipartisan, bipartisan. And he's 200 years old. So on marijuana, brother, just make it legal.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's a gimme. It's a gimme. It's
a
so
gimme,
easy.
It's a layup.
It's so easy.
It's not the 1970s. It's not the 1990s. It's not the 1870s, brother. Over 70% of Americans want it legal. Every red state votes to legalize it.
Yeah.
You dumbass. It's so popular
No,
and easy.
I hate how fucking stupid the Democrats are. Like, they're bad on policy and they're bad on politics. Like, at least have one, you know what I mean? At least Republicans do good politics.
Yes,
they're bad on
that's right.
policy, but they do good politics. They
That's
know how to
right.
fucking win. Usually, lately, this time around, they're suffering from their success like DJ Khaled, but you know, they got a little too they got a little too far ahead with their horrifyingly bad policies.
So, but I want to go back to Michigan for a second because now Biden's lost Michigan. It's gone. His support among Arab Americans was over 70%. It's now down to 15%. And so Michigan is the most critical swing state. Trump won it in 2016, lost it in 2020, makes all the difference. And right now the polling in Michigan is a disaster for Joe Biden. It is gone, okay? And a lot of Arab Americans are saying, even if I don't vote for Trump, I'm not voting for Biden. So they're going to sit it out. We've lost Michigan for good if Joe Biden's the candidate.
17% of black voters are also moving in the direction of the Republican Party, which is an unimaginable number that has never happened in American history before. 8% last time around, up to 17% for Donald Trump. The Hispanic voting bloc, 39% looking to vote for the Republican Party this time around. These are incredibly high numbers. In the past, I've talked about this before. In the past, the number of black people that voted for the Democratic Party could swing in either direction. However, the percentages did not change. It was always like 90% of the black vote was for the Democratic Party. And then other black voters who didn't vote for the Democratic Party just simply wouldn't vote. I've never experienced a genuine change from the, and this is mostly led by black men in general, but a voter shift from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party like this.
Yeah, so two more devastating stats. So on Latino voters, back in 2012, Democrats had a 42-point lead. Now it's down to a 4-point lead for Joe Biden. They've lost Latinos almost entirely. It's nearly even now. That is unconscionable, and there's no way any Democratic candidate can win when they are only winning 4% with Latino voters.
And they're fucking over the youth vote, like the Israel-Palestine stuff.
Thing I was going to get
the
to.
Israel-Palestine stuff is like not just, there's such a gigantic generational divide here between people who have only fucking known about Israel from television and like pro-Israel coverage versus people who get their information from independent media and also social media. And you see that generational divide. Jonathan Greenblatt is very well aware of it. In a leaked audio, he straight up was saying, like, we have a generational problem. 51% of American Jews that are under the age of 35 are pro-Palestine. 51%.
Love it. That's America. That's
what I'm saying. But like, it's ridiculous. Like, you cannot, if you're under the age of 44, and especially if you're under the age of 35, you have the exact opposite perspective on Israel-Palestine as every other demographic.
Yeah, 100%. Now, to the point about young voters carried Biden in 2020. Remember, he barely won the Electoral College by 44,000 votes, right? And young voters came out 11% higher than they did in previous elections, including against Trump last time in 2016. So, and young voters also carried the Democrats in these last elections in Ohio, Kentucky, et cetera. So now Biden in the last poll is down to Trump with young voters, down by 4. Down by 4 to Donald Trump among young voters? Good night, Irene. 0% chance of winning. Biden is going to lose.com. Biden is going to lose.com. There's no, like, guys, the reason I entered the race, why? I think, I got this. I'm about to win.
Dude, don't say that.
Right. No. Hey, listen, I'm proud. I'm beating 3 governors right now. So it's a tiny number, but Trump started at 1%, et cetera. But that's not my point. My point is we've got to knock Biden out. That's why I'm in the race. My hair is on fire.
He meant like not physically. He meant
rhetorically, politically, obviously, right? We're not.
I just want to specify. I don't want the Secret Service breaking down our door on our beautiful Thanksgiving dinner.
But look at what an egomaniac Joe Biden is. Did you see the turkey pardon when he couldn't finish the sentence?
Oh, I did not.
Oh, you got to pull that up. Look, nobody can watch that clip and then tell me that Joe Biden should be the Democratic candidate. These guys in Washington, they're all egomaniacs.
Wait, it says video misrepresents Biden's departure from White House turkey pardon. What?
Yeah, bullshit. That's just mainstream media covering up for him. Just watch the video.
A video clip shows Joe Biden abruptly leaving this year's Thanksgiving turkey pardoning ceremony. False. In a full video of Monday's ceremony, Biden spent several minutes speaking and talking with photos with guests after pardoning.
No, that's not the point. The point is what he said when he was talking. I don't care when he left. I didn't even see when he left. So he's
democracy,
he's talking about how he's making a joke about Taylor Swift.
Oh, that's where the turkey pardon. Oh, dude, I saw this. He's talking about like Britney Spears. Like, Britney is really hot out there, Jack.
And he gets Britney Spears and Taylor Swift confused. Okay, older politician, who cares?
The chairman of the National Turkey Federation, Steve Lakin, Steve, and your entire family. I got to meet the entire family. And by the way, it's my birthday today, and they can actually sing birthday music. I just want you to know it's difficult turning 60. Difficult. His entire family raised these birds on their family farm in Minnesota. And Steve, chickens, but no chicken that big, man, I tell you. Just a few weeks ago, I visited another family farm in Minnesota where we talked about the pride of small towns and communities, rural.
Does anyone have the Taylor Swift quote?
So,
like the clip?
Yeah. So this guy, you know why he's running, right?
Come on, man. Why am I running? I don't know. Where am I? I'm going crazy, Jack.
So he's proposed 0 policies so far. None. 0. Because he's not trying to get anything done. He already got whatever he was going to get done. He wants to be a 2-term president because he thinks 1-term presidents are considered lame. So he's like, for my legacy and for my ego, we need to be a 2-term president, not a 1-term president.
Surely egomaniacal geriatric fucks haven't destroyed American democracy in the past 4 or 5 years or so before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's never happened. No one's ever died when they're in a profoundly important position of power, for example.
Yeah, and what are they going to do with him? They're going to pull a Feinstein if he gets that kind of shape, and Kamala Harris is going to wheel him around and say, he says he's for Israel, or he says he's for this. I mean, this is absurd, man. 77% of Americans don't think that he's going to be healthy enough to finish a second term.
Is not 1, not 2, but 3 pop stars. Taylor Swift, Britney Spears, as well as Beyonce.
Sky News Australia.
As he discussed how far the turkeys have travelled to be pardoned.
Had to work hard to show patience and be willing to travel over 1,000 miles. You could say even this harder than getting a ticket to the Renaissance tour or Britney's tour. She's down in, it's kind of warm in Brazil right now.
Yo, that's my president. Never mind, I'm back on. He's so sick.
Jesus Christ.
No demented presidents have ever been awful for America in the past, in the 90s.
look, the guy's the Mad King. He
Or the
won't.
80s.
He won't let go of power. I mean, look at if he thinks democracy's on the line, he's gonna go run, going, Brazil's kind of hot, and so's Britney Spears. I'm a little malarkey. Come on, dude. You can't finish a sentence. You egomaniac.
You know what's really funny? He says
get out of the race.
He said it's kind of warm in Brazil right now, and what he's actually making a reference to is the Taylor Swift concert where someone died.
Yeah, exactly.
Of a fucking heat stroke.
And you're not supposed to make fun of that. That's not a joke. But he doesn't know. He doesn't know. Like, if it's Britney Spears or Taylor Swift, he doesn't know if it's Brazil or Argentina. He doesn't know if it's Tuesday or Wednesday, man. This guy's going to say no one else should run. I'm the only one who should run. That's why I'm in the race. JankForAmerica.com. Biden's going to lose.com. It's so obvious. So, look, Haas, my job is to shake people out of their trance, right? So you think, like Dean Phillips is going to, like, shake people out of this, right?
Oh, don't come for Dean, dude.
Okay.
If you come for the Dean, you best not miss.
And by the way, and Dean got in after I did. And so, great. I'm glad that Dean's in. My point is all the governors should be in. Governor Whitmer should be in. Governor Pritzker should be in. Governor Shapiro would kick Donald Trump's ass and would start with 10 points higher than Joe Biden. And, Haas, one last thing that's absolutely devastating. When you have an incumbent president, what happens if gas prices go up in October? Guaranteed Trump win. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
And who controls gas prices the most? The Saudis. And who do the Saudis love?
Oh, the Saudis make no...
It's
the Saudis
over.
are very open about their love for Donald Trump. They just very openly are like, yeah, we want Trump back.
They're going to jack up the gas prices in September and October, and Biden is going to get landslided. He's going to be like Walter frickin' Mondale. He's going to lose the country on his watch because this egomaniac wouldn't put down the gavel. And I don't know why I said gavel. It's kind of fun. But so he's out there, and he's like, no, I don't think any governor should get in.
So what's your suggestion?
And by the way,
though?
these guys are going around saying that I should be kept off the ballots. They're using the DNC to try to keep me off the ballots. So Joe Biden's for discrimination. Okay, Joe Biden is a loser who can't fight out in the public, but does these things in the dark at night. Like, oh yeah, we'll use the state parties to keep our competitors off the ballots because our guy can't finish a sentence. You can't finish a sentence. Retire. You're going to lose to Donald Trump. You're going to lose democracy, you narcissist.
So who do you think should run outside of yourself, of course? Because you've talked about this. Like, there's people cynically being like, so you're just a spoiler candidate then? And
no, I don't know why it's so hard for people to understand the difference between running in a Democratic primary and running as an independent. In an independent race, you could be the spoiler. That's obvious, right? But in a primary, if you say anyone in a primary is a spoiler, you're saying you shouldn't have primaries. You're saying whichever the powerful anoint should be the leader. Hillary Clinton has been anointed by the powerful. You're being a spoiler by running against her. We should all accept corporate rule. Then you're not a progressive. Go be an establishment, suck off, and go kiss Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden's feet. But I got no interest in you. We run primaries. By the way, strong primaries produce strong candidates. 2016, most vicious primary we've ever seen in our lives for the Republicans, and they win.
Oh, I thought you were going to say strong primary for Hillary Clinton, strongest candidate, not so much.
Dude, in 2016, the Republicans are talking about dick size on the national stage, and they won. In 2020, there's 27 candidates on the Democratic side, and they won. So when the mainstream media tells you, primarying powerful people who are incumbents and suck off corporate donors is spoiler candidate terrible. Don't ever run against them.
Who do you think
Who
do you think is being cowardly right now by not running against Joe Brandon when you know they could be popular? Obviously, a lot of people say Gavin Newsom, but I don't think Gavin Newsom would poll well nationally.
So look, that's two different things. Who would be more popular? I think Whitmer and Shapiro would be more popular than Newsom, right?
Yes. Well, here's the other thing, though. Wait, hold on. Generic Democrat that is lifeless, faceless, polls 18 points better than Joe Biden.
18 points better.
So what you're saying is backed up by the data. Like, you're not coming at this for people who are shitting on you and saying, like, oh, yikes, seems like you want the Democratic Party to fail, sweaty, because so many of you are stupid-ass DNC fucking mouthpieces, and you don't even get paid for it, you absolute fucking dinguses. Assume the position that, like, You just have to sit there and take it. The DNC tells me who to vote for, and I vote for it because that's the defensive posturing. That's the defensive voting that we must engage in every time, okay? Something that you need to remember is that, no, this is supposed to be a democratic process, which is why extracting concessions from your leaders is perfectly valid, perfectly just. Pressuring them is perfectly valid, perfectly just. And demanding a better candidate that is actually going to not lose the election to Donald Trump is also perfectly valid and perfectly just. So just remember that when Cenk is doing this and you're like, oh man, I can't believe he's done this. Like, I don't necessarily like. I've joked around about his chances, of course, but ultimately I think he's right when he says that Joe Biden has to be swapped out with someone else. And I know that even David Axelrod has basically fucking mentioned this, and I feel like part of the reason why they're not doing it is because they're trying to run the clock so they can say, oh, but we can't do anything. The primaries are now here, and there's no one on the ballots, and, Joe Biden is the guy. We got to cross him over the finish line.
So the original idea was get more governors into the race, but to your point, you asked about courage, and it turns out they don't have it. So, look, they have other things. They'd be 18 points higher than Joe Biden, but they don't have courage. Because if any of them had courage, you know how easily they could have knocked this guy out in the primary? If J.B. Pritzker came in with his $1 billion,
oh yeah,
he would have annihilated Biden.
And also
he
his
would
physique.
be the president of the United States, but he was too scared.
And also his physique, because he is rotund, and Americans want to vote for rotund men.
Okay, well, then I'm in good shape.
Yeah.
Okay, so...
No, you are nowhere near as big of a boy as JB is, though. Come on.
Yeah, I hear you. So, look, John Shapiro beat a Trump acolyte by 15 points in Pennsylvania. He's popular. In Pennsylvania, he'd carry Pennsylvania easily. So Shapiro would be 10,000 times better than Joe Biden. I want everybody in the race. But since they were not profiles in courage, new plan is make Biden retire. Okay, enough with being gentle and polite. The brother's not understanding polite. We need to all get in his face, and we need to go, hey, cut the malarkey, okay? You're 81 years old. You got to retire, Jack. Okay? And no, this isn't political. Let me whisper it for you, Joe. You're being a narcissist, and you're going to ruin democracy because you want a second term, you selfish. All right, even I have limits. But we all got to push him out. No, Joe way. No way, Joe. No way. No way. Push him out. Look, I even bought woundedantelope.com. This guy's a wounded antelope. He's not... Everybody knows this, but nobody will say it. So my job is to scream it from the rooftops until people go, oh, yeah, he's 18 points lower than a generic Democrat. We're mental for running this guy. We're purposely trying to lose to Donald Trump. It's political malpractice of the highest
It's going to be really
order.
funny when they run. It's going to be funny when they run these clips against you and myself to be like, Joe Biden lost because of you and not because he was 800 years old, and every poll said that 75% of the Democratic Party don't want him to run again.
I don't care. They look, the DNC does propaganda 24/7. They'll do propaganda about that. But even if you said Joe Biden's great, they do propaganda pretending you said he was bad. It doesn't matter. I'm not interested in their stupid propaganda. And now voters under the age of 50, they're onto your bullshit.
WoundedAntelope.com.
They're not interested in. Yeah, woundedantelope.com.
It's not. Oh, my God. It is real. Oh, fucking Christ. WoundedAntelope.com goes to jankforamerica.com. That's so funny. All right, well, our family's here, and I think we're going to go sit down for dinner soon. So, on a powerful note, thank you so much for coming on, Uncle Cenk. The Cenk off this time around, we didn't really duke it out at all in the marketplace of ideas.
Next Thanksgiving.
Next Thanksgiving, we'll talk about crime again.
Okay. All right. Much love, guys.
Next Thanksgiving in the White House. Next Thanksgiving in the White House.
Trump started at 1%. I started at 2%. I'm doubling Trump.
Yeah,
Listen,
but
anything's possible.
Okay.
Anything's possible, brother.
Okay.
Okay. But mainly, let's go make sure we knock Joe Biden out politically.
And put a different, better Democratic candidate in his place.
Yes. Much
a more
better
popular Democratic
Put in
candidate.
Shapiro, Pritzker, Whitmer, any of those folks. Easy. I'm the only candidate rooting for other candidates. Let's go. Knock him out.
Dean Phillips. Dean Phillips 2024. All right. Bye, everybody. See you tomorrow.